If you listen to Weebs, you'd think Darling in the Franxx was the biggest tragedy of 2018 next to the death of Takahata Isao, with building itself up to be almost a second coming of Evangelion, only to spend the last 6 episodes pissing itself and crying in the corner. So, as someone who initially passed over this show in favor of a crippling addiction to League of Legends, I thought it'd be a good time to revisit it and the imaginary timeline where Darling in the Franxx not only stuck the landing, but was so good it changed the course of anime, history, and the entire world, probably forever. So imagine my surprise when I found that, guys, this is a terrible anime, and there is no universe where a different ending would have somehow made this not a train derailing in slow motion over 24 episodes. Not that none of it is good, or hell, excellent even, particularly some of the world building scenes, and we'll get to why it really should have been so much better than it is, but if you'll hear me out to the end, I think you'll agree that not only is there no ending that could have possibly saved this fucking train wreck, the ending we did get only made its laundry list of problems extremely obvious, which is why everyone thinks only the ending sucked. Okay, so first, when talking about Darling in the Franxx, it's kinda hard to ignore the part where it's literally about teenagers fighting robot dinosaurs by ass-fucking in the back of giant robots, but let's just, put that aside for a second. Over there, in this box labeled Horny Anime Fever Dreams alongside Kill la Kill, and just not touch that again until... and instead start with this other, completely different anime fever dream. Okay. First, just for the record, while we can almost hear the voice actor's heavy mouth breathing as he tries to avoid touching himself in the middle of the recording booth, now, the problem here isn't the fan service. It's that this, being their first interaction, kind of sets the baseline for, these characters' entire goddamn relationship. Okay, real quick, if you've never seen or don't remember Darling in the Franxx, basically imagine Evangelion, only instead with a whole army of little kids raised to partner up and fight in giant robot dinosaurs to protect the sad remnants of humanity living on even bigger giant robots, with the exception of 02, who is a sexy monster waifu with horns and fangs that everyone but Protag-kun/Mega Stud Hero is afraid of. So the entire story revolves around their relationship, the start of which is basically exploring why he's able to look past her appearance, past all the rumors of her being a man-eater whose partners all die after riding her for the 3rd time. Again, this is about teenagers fucking in the back of giant robots, and seeing her for the person she is. And while we're given a bunch of actual reasons why he's able to do this, almost none of the others actually matter when the literal first thing we're told is that he wants to fuck her. Again, sure, him accidentally perving on her bathing naked and for some reason picking up her underwear being our introduction to her isn't so much playing on anime tropes as it is drinking their bodily fluids and pretending to gag afterwards like it wasn't intentional. But the real problem is when he's like, oh no, I don't even care about your horns and fangs. It's immediately believable because we're literally given a massive fucking reason why he wouldn't have even noticed them. Sorry, 2 reasons. What? Horns? Oh, up there. I see. Wow, didn't even notice. What this does is take all the work building up the relationship that is the main foundation of the story and throws it in the dumpster just to have a 5-second titty shot in the first episode. Suddenly, it's starting to become obvious why it took so long for anyone to even start noticing any of the huge fucking problems with the writing. I think maybe this is something we can start calling the future diary effect, somehow gaslighting the audience into thinking some freaky bitch with pink hair and even bigger titties than mental issues is somehow the hottest thing ever, to the point that I still have trouble admitting that Yuno is problematic like 12 years later. Seriously, what is it? Is it just the fact that we get to see her naked? Is it that years of being shoved into lockers has given weeaboos a collective fetish for physical and emotional abuse? Or is it that not an insignificant number of us are Asians, with Asian parents? Instead of answering that, let's start focusing in on the core problem with the writing I keep hinting at. And I think there's no better place to start than with the hack metaphor that someone thought was a good intro. Now, if you've seen it, you might be wondering what the hell I'm even going on about, because it's probably not obvious exactly what's wrong with it, and in fact, I'm not even sure I'd call it strictly bad, but a short little autopsy here will help put in context the more serious problems with the writing.
記憶の鳥というらしい。片方の翼しか持たず、オスとメス。つがいで寄り添わなければ空を飛べない。不完全な生き物。
This made-up story is eerily exactly like this other thing we made up and that has literally no meaningful role in this story. How amazingly deep and insightful. Now, I'm not saying this show about teenagers fucking in the back of giant robots has to follow real-world logic. That would make me the game theorist. But what I am saying is that maybe the story should tell us literally anything else about these birds. What, they're utterly helpless until they find another one? How then do they find another? Do they waddle around crippled, being easy prey? Do the parents help raise them like normal birds, or do they just leave them to hatch on their own? No, we literally only learn just enough for this metaphor to be minimally coherent and not a detail more, making this pale and transparent and kind of fall apart the second any critical thought is put into it. Like, sure, I get that they're based on actual Chinese mythology, but judging by just how short the Japanese Wikipedia page is for them, if any viewers have actually heard of these, it's the base concept and absolutely nothing else. Now, again, you're probably like, hold on a second, so-called king of weeaboos, there's lots of animals that have symbiotic relationships. Just because this one is made up and doesn't make sense and is never brought up in the story doesn't take away from the fact that this is just a cute metaphor. And sure, that's true, and that's why this still kind of works. But what I want to point out here is that while this comes across as meaningful and deep, not only is all this meaning completely surface level, it falls apart the second you dig any deeper. Which brings me to everything that actually ends up a complete train wreck, the worst example being the names of every single fucking character. So, being raised as childhood soldiers, none of the children have names, all given a simple code name based on their genetic aptitude. 02, 016, etc. None of them have been shown the simple love of a name. And so, the reason they all look up to Hiro is because he, in all his blissful childhood ignorance, couldn't see why they didn't have names, like all the heroes in the storybooks, like the story of the Beast and her princess. Why didn't they have names? So, he gave them each one. That day, Ichigo, Kokoro, Ikunu, all of them now became more than just a number, more than just a cog in the system, become a family reaching beyond the cold, unfeeling society that they were born into. Now, here's the part where the quicker among you are probably like, wait a second, if they deliberately gave these children that were being monitored 24/7 numbers instead of names, would they not have a problem with them suddenly choosing their own names? And see, the thing about that is, yes they would, which is why they come in one time and say, hey, stop that, don't do that, stop that, don't do that. And then leave, and then never bring it up again. Like, ever. Are you starting to see the problem here? Darling in the Franxx is trying to be deep and meaningful and emotional, but never puts the work in. So everything just fucking falls apart at the slightest hint of critical thought. Like, they didn't have to do this. It could have been the intention to just be passive and neglectful instead of actively harmful, but that's the thing. If that was the intention, they wouldn't have them walk into the room and tell them to stop having names. But they did, because they wanted it to be an extreme act of defiance, but it's just not. This is like if you farted in a crowded elevator and tried to pretend it wasn't you, but then just immediately went yeah and stuck out your tongue before running away giggling. None of this is how, like, literally any character or any part of this would work. It's like everyone writing this lacked the basic concept of cause and effect. How about Mitsuru and Kokoro's marriage? Just like how they're not given names, they're all kept in the dark about sex and puberty until Kokoro finds a book on raising babies and realizes that strange tingling in her panties means that her reproductive instincts are kicking in, and she grabs Mitsuru and almost fucks him in the middle of the greenhouse before being interrupted and getting thrown into a giant fight about this with the other squad about how puberty works, at which point the adults come in and tell them to chill the fuck out and never think about babies again because that's strictly banned and they're watching their every move, which would be all stressful and emotional and actually makes sense if she didn't basically immediately afterwards grab him and fuck his brains out in the spare bedroom and then have a wedding without anyone interfering the entire time. Oh, sure. They put a stop to the wedding and erased their memories of each other all 1984 style, and as all the rest of the children see the happy couple being taken away, they all collectively feel a sense of loss for the little spark of love that came through in this dead, joyless world, except, oh my god, you guessed it, this makes even less sense. For one, she's fucking pregnant, and this becomes a huge issue as, remember, they have no idea where babies come from. So you just have this kid who doesn't even remember getting laid suddenly have no idea what's happening to her body. And like, okay, you're telling me they went and erased her memories because she went and had sex and they just like let her be pregnant? They literally have the technology to erase specific memories, but can't deal with unwanted pregnancies. Oh, well, sex isn't a part of this world, maybe they overlooked it, and sure, maybe they could have. But they also left their fucking wedding rings on too, like, yeah, let's make them forget about the marriage and just, you know, leave them with the symbol of that marriage for literally no reason. But you're telling me they have a process to erase their fucking memories, but lack both Plan B and the ability to take rings off fingers. Now, see, the answer is they could and obviously would have done both, only the writers thought it would be more emotional if they were just left with evidence of both their love and commitment to each other, but without their memories. A sign of some connection they will never understand, and sure, it is emotional, only with the very minor consequence that it's suddenly impossible to take any part of this seriously because none of this would ever fucking happen. I could go on about the alarming number of holes in the writing, and I will, but what this feels like is the writers just put down the first thing that came to their minds without any second thought and then spent the rest of their time making out in the corner. Like, whoa, what if she was also pregnant? Wouldn't that be crazy? Yeah, it would be crazy. Have you thought about how crazy that would be? No, seriously, I'm asking because I have, and I don't think we're on the same page here. So when people are like, wow, it's really hard to take this seriously after episode 19. My response is, what, are you serious? It took you this long to decide that it doesn't make sense? We were watching the same show, no? The one about kids ass fucking in the cockpit of giant robots. Yes, it's time to bring that up again. Now you can't take it seriously? I guess this might actually be more interesting if you've never actually experienced what it's like to be touched by someone, but for all of us turbo chad sigma male sex havers who realize that dojins of sexy robots themselves fucking exist, spending the entire second episode watching a bunch of teenagers metaphorically lose their virginity without explaining any of the plot or developing any of the characters beyond establishing which of them are the most awkward in bed is not what I'd call good television. So, you really think this was a good show up until episode 19? Yeah, sure about that one. Sure, yes, switching the plot from a show about the struggling remains of humanity after having destroyed their planet and awakened a bunch of killer robot dinosaurs by defying gods and nature in a futile pursuit of immortality, to said robot dinosaurs having a giant laser space battle against a race of ethereal space Brits is dumb and stupid and impossible to take seriously, yes. But if I could be real with you for a second, given all of the problems I've just laid out with the writing, literally none of this should have come as a surprise. Let me walk through exactly what went through the writers' minds when they were working on this. Okay, we have teenagers in big sexy robots fighting giant dinosaurs by, again, and I cannot stress this enough, ass fucking in the back. How do we now elevate this? Well, there's two obvious solutions. One is to have a twist where the giant robot dinosaurs are actually the good guys, and two is to have the human leaders actually secretly be the bad guys. Can you guess which one they did? Oh, right. They did both. Because of course they fucking did. See, look, weebs, everything that went wrong with not only the ending, but every other part of the story actually makes perfect sense if you look at the problem the story needs to solve, write down the very first thing that comes to mind, and then beat yourself over the head with a giant stick until you forget what you just did. Remember how 02 gives Hiro space herpes and he almost dies just like all of her previous partners, but then, surprise, doesn't, and then suddenly becomes really cool and strong and saves the day and shit? What's up with that? Did you forget about it? Because the writers certainly did. I mean, sure, he's slightly special, but then why did he get so sick in the first place? What the hell just randomly and magically cured his blue waffle? Nothing! Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's just slightly more dramatic with a convenient deus ex machina inserted up the ass of the plot. I could go on about the fat kid randomly having anorexia one episode with no prior hint and then forgetting about it basically immediately after, making it a clumsier attempt at tackling mature issues than whatever the fuck episode 2 was. About God, anything to do with the concept of magma energy, and technically, this is another part of the ending, but dude, when they save the universe, they completely forget about the power of love and go right back to the power of anime friendship overcoming God. Now, again, I'm not saying there's nothing to like here or that you're stupid for liking it. Most of this is, at least on a structural level, good writing. The things I'm pointing out, most of them anyway, aren't fundamentally bad choices. They're just things that ruin good writing because they've written down the literal first thing that came to their minds and put absolutely zero thought into it afterwards. God. Okay, so 3 things before we go. First, and most importantly, if you enjoy seeing me tear apart trashy anime, one of the next things I want to try is tearing apart my viewers' most hated anime. So if there's something you really think needs to be taken down a peg, leave a comment explaining why you hate it, and I may do the top-rated suggestion. 2, looking at this, I'm wondering what else we got so wrong, and thinking maybe we should write down every anime with a busty pink-haired waifu with mental issues as a supporting lead so we can start that Future Diary index. Here, I'll start. Future Diary obviously gets a 10 on the index for being so much worse than everyone thought when it was airing. We'll give Darling in the Franxx maybe an 8? I don't know, what do we rank this by? Level of gaslighting or level of trashiness? Lastly, if anything I said at all resonated with you, you'd be doing me a huge favor by stepping on that like button. As always, thank you so much for your time, friends, and I'll see you in the next video.